All right, welcome everyone. We are very thankful to be able to have each person here this evening. And I'm excited about presenting about the lymphatic system. I first learned about this in 2015 when I went to a lymphatic drainage education class. And it was so educational that I really enjoyed teaching on this topic ever since. So I'm excited about what we're going to be learning together this evening. So, just a minute, let me fix some things very quickly. All right, so the first thing that we're going to be looking at is the lymphatic system is a very little known system, but we're going to be looking at how we can keep it healthy. So right here, this is what we're going to be learning today about the lymphatic system. Our first topic is we're going to be looking at how the lymphatic system differs from the cardiovascular system. Most people know about the cardiovascular system and very little about the lymphatic system. So we're going to be checking that out. Also, the function of the lymphatic system, what its purpose is, why it's here. The lymph and its connection to our health. So that's really important because we might know a system, but how it affects us is also important to understand. And then we're also going to be looking at steps to regaining lymphatic health, things that affect the lymphatic system, and then steps to regaining lymphatic health. And then the last point we're going to be covering is how to maintain a healthy lymphatic system. So this is exciting. We're going to delve right into this. So we're going to be looking at the cardiovascular system very briefly. So in the cardiovascular system, it consists of three things: the heart, the blood vessels, and the blood cells. And this system has two main functions. The number one function is the transport of nutrition, oxygen, and hormones, and also warmth to cells throughout the body. And the second function is the removal of metabolic waste, carbon dioxide, and other kind of waste. There's waste of cells and different things.
A moment and ensure its authenticity.
So as we're looking at this cardiovascular system, this is the function of it. You can see here the two main functions: the transport of nutrient, oxygens, hormones, the removal of metabolic waste. So how can the blood reach every cell since it only travels in specific channels? Well, this presents to us a very interesting problem that we're going to be looking at what this means. Well, that's why we have the lymphatic system. And right here, the lymphatic system consists of three primary things: the lymphatic fluid, the lymph channels, and the lymph nodes. And so in this system, we're going to be looking at this a little closer. You can see in this, there's on this picture, there's a few more things, but the green is supposed to be showing the lymph vessels, lymph channels, and then also there's a few other organs added in there, but this is mostly the lymph system. Okay, so the function of the lymphatic system. This is exciting. This is where we get to begin understanding it. The function is to bathe every cell of the body. Where the cardiovascular system is only able to reach certain cells or certain organs, the lymph system is able to bathe every cell of the body. It also provides nutrition, oxygen, and warmth to every cell, and also hormones. It carries the hormones. It transports toxins and waste back to the heart, and it provides a passageway for the immune system. So this is what the function of the lymphatic system is. Where is the birthplace of the lymphatic system? Well, interestingly enough, the lymphatic system is born at the time when the cardiovascular system is the smallest. So here we have in the cardiovascular system the arteries and the veins. The arteries are the vessels that carry the oxygenated blood from the heart. The veins is what carries the deoxygenated blood to the heart. And there's a few exceptions up towards the lungs. But basically, arteries carry blood from the heart, veins carry blood to the heart. So in this, we have a small exchange in what's called the capillaries. And in the capillaries, it is so tiny that the blood, it has to fold in half in some of these places. And while it is folding in half to fit through the capillaries, those little tiny vessels, that is where the oxygen, the hormones, the nutrition, and the warmth is placed into the plasma because the blood cannot carry it all. When it goes into the plasma then leaks out through the capillary walls and into the tissue of the body. And that is where the birthplace of the lymphatic system happens. So the plasma that was carrying not all the plasma, but a section of the plasma that was carrying the oxygenated blood with the nutrition now is carrying that oxygen, warmth, and nutrition into the different tissues and of the body, and the non-oxygenated blood is going back to the heart. Okay, this is what it looks like. If we could just see inside of our cells, this is what it looks like to have that lymph, or now that plasma that is carrying all those things into and bathing the cells of the body. And it really looks like little water droplets. And as it's going through every cell of the body, oh, I don't have the next picture, but there is an exchange that is taking place. Since the blood does not come in direct contact with the tissue cells, except in the spleen, one of the main functions of the blood circulation is to supply and renew the lymph to all tissues. It has been stated that the blood feeds the lymph and the lymph feeds the cells. So this is a pretty important system that we have in our body. All the processes of tissue nutrition and repair are dependent upon the lymphatic system. And so if we can just imagine for just a moment, we have a car and this car isn't working. So we think, well, maybe it's the gas tank. And we see that on our little display that it's showing that we don't have any gas. So we push the car down to the gas station, we get it filled up, and the car still won't start. So we start doing some problem solving. We recognize the gas tank is full, but somehow the pipes between the gas tank and the engine have been disconnected. Oh, what happens? Well, we're not going to get the car started until we fix those pipes. Well, that's what happens when the lymphatic system is not healthy. No matter what kind of nutrition we put in our bodies, it's not going to benefit us unless we have a healthy lymphatic system, since the lymphatic system is truly what carries that nutrition to our cells and the waste and decay away. This is very important because if we have a stagnant lymphatic system, that's where we start getting some problems with cancer and other things, just because we don't have oxygen going to those areas, we don't have nutrition, and the waste is not being hauled away. Just imagine very quickly with me what it would look like if nobody dumped the trash in your house for an entire year. Well, that's what happens in our body when our lymphatic system is sticky or not working correctly. So this is an image to help us understand what is happening here. When we put a lemon in water, there is a mighty exchange that happens. The water soon will take the flavor and the nutrition of the lemon. Well, the lemon will less and less taste like a lemon and more like water. And that's kind of the exchange that happens in our bodies. When the lymph is bathing every cell, it is carrying that nutrition, that oxygen, that warmth, those hormones, right where they need to go, and even the white blood cells. And it is exchanging for the toxins, the waste matter from the cells. And a lot of times what happens is when the cells are going, different cells are able to use different waste material, because what might be waste to one cell is actually useful to another. And so it's a very economical way of keeping the body healthy and clean. So right here we have just to talk once again, because the lymph bathes every cell of the body, it provides a convenient and very useful transportation system to any area of the body that is under attack. So when the white blood cells, oftentimes they travel in the lymphatic system, because in the lymphatic system they're able to get right to the specific cells. Okay, so right here as we're looking at this picture, we're thinking, poor children. Well, this is what happens inside our body. We could have the same problems with malnutrition and with being very sick simply because our lymph system isn't working correctly. If our lymph system isn't working, we could be eating the most nutritious food and it still is not going to be getting to our cells if our lymph is sticky or it's got some kind of issues. And so this is something that we really need to be focusing on. Also, if we're sick, if our body is not able to transport the white blood cells to the areas under attack, if it's also not able to clean out that waste, we're going to get sicker and sicker. So we really want to look at how can we provide good, nutritious food to our cells and then help our cells to get that to every part of our body. Well, in the lymphatic system, well, in the cardiovascular system, we'll start there. The cardiovascular system, the major way that it is able to operate is through the heart. And that little muscle is so powerful. It pumps our blood over 60 times per minute our entire lives. And if we really added this up, it would be a massive number. This little heart is able to pump massive amounts of blood all through our body. But the lymph system does not have a heart. It doesn't have anything to pump it through. What does it have? Well, there's a couple of things it does have. Number one, when our muscles move, here we see a man walking, someone walking on a trail. When our muscles move, what happens is it actually moves the lymph to the lymphatic vessels, because it starts out just bathing every cell, then it goes into lymphatic vessels and then up back into the heart. And when our muscles move, that fluid is able to get to the little lymph channels and then back to the heart. So that is one way that the lymph is moved. Another way is through what we see here, the diaphragm. And this diaphragm is located right under the lungs. You can see it there represented in this very good picture. Right under the lungs, and the heart is the diaphragm. It kind of looks like a big mushroom. Well, that muscle, we use it when we breathe. So I would like everyone here just to breathe deeply. Pull in. Hopefully your stomach's coming out, because that's how it is when we're breathing correctly. And then when we let out, that mighty suction that happens, kind of like the reverse of a vacuum, is actually, well, it's actually like a vacuum, is what pulls the lymph also through the body into the lymph channels and then back to the heart. So right here we have, they've called it the heart of the lymph system, but really there is no heart. But the diaphragm is what pulls where the heart pushes. And so this is the difference. So when we're not breathing correctly, then our lymph is stagnant. When we're not exercising correctly, our lymph is stagnant. So our nutrition is not able to get where it needs to go, and the waste is not able to be carried away. Okay, so what are some things that affect lymphatic health? We're going to be looking at this. Well, because the lymph system is a system of fluids, dehydration is one of the worst things that could happen to our lymphatic system. When we're dehydrated, our body starts looking like a desert. And I wish I could show you the scientific pictures. I remember when I was going through lymph school, learning lymphatic drainage, and I was learning about this, and I saw these pictures of these dehydrated people, and the lymph was not flowing because they weren't drinking water. So there was really, the blood was so dry and just barely pushing through the arteries and veins that it didn't really have any plasma to leach out. And so the nutrition was kind of just recycling and was becoming stagnant, and it was really bad. And these people, it looks like a desert inside their bodies, and that's not what we want to be. That person isn't healthy and they've got a lot of problems. So dehydration is one of the worst things. If we do not have the water, the nutrition is not able to get to every cell of the body. The waste is not able to be carried away. Now, it's interesting because sugary, carbonated drinks actually do more for hindering the flow of the lymph than if we had drunk some other kind of fluids. Just imagine with me if you needed some dish soap, or you needed some way to wash dishes, and you sent your husband to the grocery store, and you're like, honey, I need some water, we're out of water, the electricity's off, and I need some dish soap. And he comes back with Coca-Cola. Would you be very happy? Well, of course not, because washing dishes in Coca-Cola is only going to make a sticky mess, almost worse than whatever food is already on them. Number one, it's not really going to clean them that well, and then it's going to leave them super sticky. Well, this is what happens when we drink sugary, carbonated drinks. The dishes don't come clean, neither does our body. It provides a very sticky environment, and we're wanting a free-flowing environment for our lymph channels. It actually takes 10 extra cups of water to recover from only 1 cup of soda. And so some of us aren't even drinking 10 cups of water a day. Can you imagine adding another extra 10 cups? Well, that's what happens when we're drinking soda. It's not very good for our lymph system or for the rest of our systems of our body. It makes it sticky. Lack of exercise. If one of the only ways our lymph is actually able to move is by exercise, if we're exercising well, that's perfectly good and fine. But if we're having a lack of exercise, then we're going to have stagnant places that the lymph is not able to move. That means the nutrition and oxygen, warmth, and hormones are not getting to certain areas of our body, and the waste matter is not being carried away. So it's actually really important to make sure that we have good exercise. Shallow breathing. If you can just imagine with me what it would be like if nobody cleaned the house for an entire year. Now, I don't know about you, but if I don't keep up on the house just a little every day, it can get really behind by the end of the week. And so I can't even imagine what it would be like if someone didn't clean the house for an entire year. Well, if we can just think of this as when we are breathing deeply, and when we exhale, when we inhale, we're getting those oxygen deep into our lungs. So we're feeding our blood, and then we're feeding our lymph with a lot of oxygen. Oxygen is so good for us. And then when we're exhaling, we are pulling that lymph with all those toxins, with all that waste material out of the cells, and we're dumping it back into the heart. So this is super, super important. We need to have this deep breathing so that we can keep clean and healthy. Poor nutrition. Poor nutrition is very bad, because if our blood doesn't have any nutrition to send into our lymph system, then our lymph has nothing to feed our cells of our body, and we become sicker and sicker. And truly, nutrition has been linked to a lot of diseases. Lack of nutrition has been linked to a lot of things. And this is proven even by how we have pediatricians who are working with children and other things, because they recognize that if we have a lack of nutrition, we really have a lack of health. Toxins and poisons are so bad. If we can think of our lymph system as basically an ocean on which vessels or ships or other kind of transportation things are carried that bring food. You know, when I was in the mission field in Guyana, South America, I lived 200 miles out in the jungle. And the place that I lived was so remote that the only way you could get there was either by an airplane or by walking for 3 months. And you can imagine that walking 3 months was not really an option. I mean, you would have to scale waterfalls. There's lots of water there, but you could not possibly get a boat down to where you could get food. And we were so isolated that truly the airplane was pretty much our nutrition provider. It was the one that brought us most of our food, besides the little bit that we could grow there in the jungle. So when that airplane stopped working, that really caused a lot of problems for us. And if we can just think of this airplane or our lymph system as this ocean, it's what carries back and forth the things that our body needs. Well, what we put on the airplane is what's going to determine. Can you imagine if someone had loaded a bomb on that airplane and had shipped it out to us, a time bomb, and they'd given it to us and it had exploded? Well, we would all be gone. So really what happens is our lymph system, whatever we put on there, is what's really going to affect the body severely. Now, can you imagine coming to my house and I'm describing to you, I'll just go off this picture for a minute, describing to you, you know what, I've got this really good tree, I've got some apple trees, and we're going to have a good time, we're going to have a yummy picnic, and I'm going to provide the apples. And you get there, and this is what the apples look like. Would you want to join me for lunch, or would you be really disgusted and think that I'm not feeling quite okay?
Gross.
That's really disgusting. Well, sometimes we look at rotten apples like this, we just don't realize it's rotten apples, and we think, oh, delicious, this is so yummy, this is going to be so good. Why? Because vinegar is really rotten fruit, mostly. Rotten to a stage where it's distilled, and this is what we're putting in our bodies, and the body treats it the same as it would some of these rotten fruits. And so when we're looking at vinegar, there's actually quite a few things that vinegar is found in. The reason I'm bringing this up is because when we put vinegar into our bodies, it actually transports like poisons and toxins to our lymph system, to every cell of our body. So we want to be very careful. We have to check labels. But the good news is that there's super healthy ways to overcome all of these things. Bread does not have to have vinegar. It can be delicious without it. Ketchup, that we can make homemade ketchup that tastes exquisitely wonderful. And all these other things, they can be substituted. So we don't really have to go without, we just have to think smarter so that our body can be healthier. All right, also something else that really affects it is cheese. When we're eating cheese, it's really sticky, and it actually clogs up our lymph system, so it is not able to run smoothly and flow efficiently. And also really greasy foods. If we're eating a lot of oils, especially hydrogenated oils, or oils that have been heated up to a high temperature, that's not very good for our lymph system either, because when it goes through the blood and then it comes out into the lymph, it's sticky and it doesn't flow as smoothly as water does. So all these things negatively affect our health. Now, we want to think about the free-flowing. How can our lymph be free-flowing? So we're going to look at steps to regaining and how to maintain a healthy lymphatic system. Well, really it boils down to 8 simple things that we can do. Trust. You know, if we have free radicals running around because we're stressed out, that's really not going to be good for our blood, and it's not going to be good for our cells, because whatever is in our blood goes into our lymph system. And so trust is so important. And it really is connected with a vibrant, peaceful person. Trust in God. Now, open air. This is so important because what we're breathing into our lungs when we're practicing that deep breathing and exhaling, what we're breathing in goes into our blood, which goes into our lymph and then feeds every cell. So we want to be making sure that we're getting good fresh air and not just a bunch of carbon dioxide because we've got windows closed. We want to make sure that it's good, fresh air. So open air is so important. Also, daily exercise. That's really important for our lymph, especially if that's the way our lymph moves through our body, is through daily exercise. Sunshine, so important to get the proper vitamin D and other things, even purifying, because our lymph system is like a little purifying system. And to get it out correctly, we need the sunshine on our skin. Proper rest. When we are sleeping, we're actually breathing deeply. Our body is able to send the nutrition. It works in a whole different way than when we're up. If we're not getting proper rest, we are definitely negatively affecting our health and our lymphatic system. Lots of water, super important for a good lymphatic system, for everything to work properly, to flow well. Always temperate. Like we talked about earlier, those toxins and those other things, if we're getting an overload of them or we're not being temperate in any way, it's really going to harmfully affect every cell of our body through the lymph system. And then nutrition is very, very important for making sure that we're maintaining a really good, healthy system. So we're going to talk about now things that can affect in a positive way. So opposite of dehydration would be hydration. And then plenty of exercise would be opposite of lack of exercise. Deep breathing is what we need instead of shallow breathing. Proper nutrition instead of poor nutrition. Detoxing. This is so important because our lymph system is bombarded with toxins constantly, which dumps back into the blood. And a lot of times it gets stored in fat because our body simply cannot deal with it. So detoxing is so important. And I know that many of you have heard about this detoxing before, and this is so important for our overall health and especially for our lymphatic system and what it does. Proper rest, opposite of all these All these things bombarding, proper rest is so important. Temperance, once again, not having that which is harmful, being temperate or moderate with that which is good. Trust in God so we're not having stress and all those things, in sunshine. These are so, so important. So I would just like to encourage each person here that as we're looking at this lymph system, as we're looking at how we can maintain a healthy lymph system, think about how healthy do I want to be? Because really the lymph system is the foundation of our health in a way. It is what impacts every cell of our body. And if we're keeping it healthy, we're going to be a much more vibrant and healthy person. And you know what I have seen time and time again as I have been working with people in lymphatic drainage especially, so we're actually manually draining the lymph and helping it to move. And we're also, I trained under a lady who was a nutritional consultant, and oftentimes she would talk to people about, you know, this is the nutrition that you're lacking in your diet. As we approach this in a synergistic way, people start feeling so much better within a very short amount of time. Because if we truly work on our lymph system, we have got the foundation of our health upon which we can build a strong and vibrant life. And I'm so thankful that God has given us this simple knowledge. A lot of people don't even know about the lymph system, and we have the opportunity to treat it well so that we can be healthy for a longer time. All right.